Perfect. Thank you, Amy. So this opens our regular North Shore Board meeting for October 1st, 2024. Amy, if you can do the roll call for me, please.
Commissioner Admin,
Here.
Commissioner Pratt,
Present.
Commissioner Byers,
Present.
Commissioner Webster,
Here.
Commissioner Woolham,
Here.
Chief Callan.
Here.
Legal Counsel Matt Paxton,
Here.
and I'm Board Secretary Amy Oakley.
Amy, did you have any public comment sent in?
There were no comments sent in advance, but we have people online and in the room.
Perfect. So you can you just go in the order? I can't see them from my end.
Is there anyone in the room who would like to make a public comment? Mr. Marin?
Thank you. My name is David Marin. I'm a Kenmore resident and past North Shore Fire Commissioner. I'm here tonight to urge each of you as fire commissioners for the North Shore Fire Department and for all the citizens you represent to examine the viability of the RFA. When the North Shore Board of Fire Commissioners voted to contract for fire services, there were compelling reasons to do so. Contract for fire services reduced costs by eliminating one battalion, consolidation, one chief, one union, one training regiment, one financial system, and one set of policies. NFD now has the best of both worlds. NFD has achieved the benefits of consolidation while preserving the ability to set the local level of service, retain key assets, facilities, apparatus, and reserves, influence shoreline fire department budget and policies, and has retained the right to move to another service provider if the shoreline fire department cannot meet NFD's goals or needs. I can find no compelling reason to move to an RFA. The board has the authority to do anything the RFA can do. If you want to adjust the fire benefit charge, you can do so. By the way, the reason the past board decided to do a 50% discount on sprinkler building is because nobody dies in a fire in a sprinkler building, and fires should not spread quickly in a sprinkler building. If the board wants to adjust reserve funds, you can do so, and the list goes on. There are no real viable or continuing cost savings for an RFA. You already have all the benefits of the consolidated department. Moving to an RFA takes away important benefits for the contractor services as I've outlined above. NFD will subsidize the shoreline fire department, will lose the influence of the customer that can lead to another vendor, lose elected representation because the shoreline area has more voters. The majority, if not all, the commissioners will eventually be from shoreline. There's a huge financial risk in merging NFD resources with an RFA. Just look at the effective levy rate for SFD versus NFD. It's been 12% higher traditionally over the last 10 years. I believe they will be paid more and receive less. NFD has averaged 13% higher AV than shoreline, and the demand for services for our area by population is 10% less. The financial predictions are assumptions. Even the best intentions financial estimates are difficult to get right. We simply have to look at the contract for fire services, financial projections versus the reality of the past couple of years to see that in hindsight, these financial predictions were not too optimistic. We were about 5% over budget each of the years of the contract. But the greatest risk of all for the NFA experiment is that there's a one-way street. With a contract of services, NFA retains the option for delivery of services, and they can change vendors. Once NFG joins NFA, there's no options to try to the path. I've asked you before to compare the benefits in the matrix, costs, risks, and the contract for services versus the RFA. If you do this, I believe you'll see it's clear there's no compelling reason to move to an RFA. You have the option at your first meeting in November to vote against that measure. I ask you to do so. I look forward to dialogue with you on this issue, but so far there's been no opportunity presented for that to happen. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Amy, was there anyone else that wanted to make a comment?
No, unless someone online would like to make a comment. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay, perfect. We are moving on to the approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda as presented. I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. Motion, oh, any nays? Motion passes unanimously. Board discussion and possible action items. Report from subcommittee from Station 54. Do we have any updates on that one?
I got email said that it was the demolition was completed. So that's, and I have not taken a drive up there to check it out. I will be doing that this week.
Okay,
When people look at it, there's still some kind of rough dirt areas, but the building and all the materials have all been taken away.
Did they plant any grass or anything on that? Yeah,
It doesn't look like it, than what I saw yesterday, that there was any grass or anything planted.
they were supposed to put something down. I'll check on that. All right, thank you.
There is a plan to hydro seed. I'm not, it doesn't seem like it's been done yet, but I can double check with Chief Hochstein.
Okay.
report from the RFA Planning Committee.
Do you want me? I can. So we had a lot, so we had quite a bit of discussion around the fire benefit charge and the financial outlook for what it was going to take to restructure the fire benefit charge and the impacts and all that. The good news is that 98% roughly, we haven't finalized the fire benefit charge, so clearly it'll depend on what we finalize on, but under some of our draft evaluations, about 98% of all property owners would see a decrease in overall, not only their fire benefit charge, but their overall contributions, because we're either going to, maintain 70 or maybe drop, the fire levy side as well. So there'd be a 98% of the fire benefit of the property owners would see a fire benefit charge decrease, and 100% would see a decrease on the fire levy side, because that applies to everybody. As previously mentioned, one of the bigger issues that we're trying to overcome or address is the 50% discount for sprinklers in North Shore, which is very substantially more than what other fire departments are providing. Almost all other fire departments provide a 10% reduction for sprinklers, with Woodinville at 30%. So the draft that we've developed at this point is to reduce the 50% to 30%, which does mean that some of the commercial the commercial owners and the apartment building owners would see an increase in their fire benefit charge, but 100% of our residential single family resident owners would see a decrease. So that's the biggest issue. I've provided the RFA planning committee with drafts of not only the plan, but also with a 20-year capital replacement strategy and the drafts of this fire benefit charge. We're gonna have further discussion about this, and then in October come back and finalize some thoughts and establish what those rates are, or what formula and what approach we want to take with an open house or Q&A type session for October 28th. And in that one, I'll give a presentation of some of our final findings and proposals in preparation for coming back to both boards in November for consideration of moving the ballot measure forward. I think that captured it. Tyler or Rick, did I miss anything that I should speak to?
No, yeah, we received all the information and review, so thank you.
Great, thank you.
That covers the highlights, Chief. I just want to make sure that Commissioner Wolm and Commissioner Admin have an opportunity to ask any clarifying questions if they should have any.
Sure, and sorry, I didn't mean to, miss you, Josh, either. So.
No, it's all right.
I didn't have any further questions. Commissioner Adman, did you?
Just on the, was there any kind of a detailed look at the impacts on the differential and the sprinkler discounts, like what occupancies or how many occupancies we're talking about?
Yeah, we went, we have a detailed spreadsheet that looks property by property essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And as the chief pointed out, we are making a relatively substantial change, right? Currently, North Shore gives a 50% discount on the fire benefit charge for sprinkler buildings. And we're reducing that to 30%. Shoreline's currently at 10% and coming up to 30%. The only other King County jurisdiction that has more than 10% discount is Woodinville. So we're still giving the largest discount of any organization in King County, but it is a change, and there will be some commercial properties that are impacted. And so we had a pretty robust conversation over two separate meetings about this, and essentially came to the conclusion that it's hard. It's going to be hard on those businesses, and we didn't want to minimize that in any way. But the benefits to the rest of the citizenry and the rest of the businesses outweighed the. I don't even know what percentage. Chief, do you know what percentage of the commercial businesses they're gonna have to pay more?
2%. As it stands now. Again, I just want to make sure that we clarify that it's in draft proposal form, not finalized. But, and that goes all the way. The 2% includes properties all the way down to, that would be a minor increase of like maybe 2 or 3%, 5% increase. But it also includes, some of those properties that will see a very substantial increase. So it is across the board a bit, but the total number of properties, there's over 30,000 properties. And we're talking about the 2%, there's about 2%, and it's all commercial and apartment buildings. It's not residential owners that'll see this increase. And that's primarily due to the fact that the sprinkler discount is substantially different.
And what stood out to us and what led to these conversations were some of the eye-popping increases that, a handful of commercial businesses in Kenmore Lake Forest Park would receive. And so we wanted to be sensitive to that and give it time and conversation and debate. And
And there was some discussion about how to help mitigate or stair step that increase to those with the most impact. We haven't got that far yet, but we did talk about proportioning that over a couple of years or whatever it takes. That's legal to do.
We also talked about increasing the levy rate up a little bit from, we initially proposed 65 cents, so either 68 or 70% to offset the impacts of the fire benefit on that other end of it.
On the commercial end of those, yeah.
So looking at all sorts of different ways to minimize the impacts.
so our lid lift just took for 2025 up to 70 cents. Right. And so we were hoping to be able to decrease that in the transition to the RFA to 65 cents. But we're currently kind of in a position where we think that it makes more sense just to keep it at the 70 cents to help mitigate the impact on some of those commercial businesses.
It's still an ongoing discussion at the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay.
That information, any questions?
Commissioners, oh, did you have something further?
I guess are there any other substantive issues that are still like being discussed, or is it the rest of it pretty well?
The rest of it's pretty well squared away. It's finances at this point.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to discussion on updating financial policy 6200.
So thanks, Matt Paxton, for responding back. I engaged with our staff at Shoreline to take a deeper look and a review. They had I think it was 4, maybe 5 questions, and that I sent to Matt, and he responded back, and I haven't had a chance to clean it up, but thanks for your response. It sounds like we need to implement the changes that were highlighted that we discussed to make sure that we're conforming to state law. So I expect that I can have a cleaned up version ready for adoption at the next meeting, unless you saw something else, Matt, that I didn't.
No, I think we're there.
So will we receive a copy of that before the next meeting for review?
Absolutely. In fact, I could probably have that done here later this week.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Chief Cowan? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna go on to discussion on updating policy 1450 commissioner meeting minutes. Is Amy still there?
Yes.
I'm here.
Okay. Did you, I don't have my notes in front of me. Do you mind if you have it, reading what we're looking at doing?
Yeah, so this policy 1450 is around the recording of meetings, public meetings. And at the last meeting, it was decided to do a temporary amendment to policy 1450 to not record the DEIB listening session that was on September 10th. So that motion was specific to one meeting. And so I guess the question is, does the board want to amend the policy to not record learning sessions, workshop, like training sessions? Or would the board rather just on a case by case make a motion to not record a certain type of meeting that's in the training realm?
So my personal opinion would be to update the policy. I don't think that we need to record trainings. So I don't know how the other commissioners feel about that, and I would like some input from everyone. Commissioner Webster, do you mind sharing your opinion on that?
I think for training purposes and if we're very specific to that kind of situation, that's a good change. I think it's a good idea. But if we have something that is questionable, that a meeting that would be questionable, then that should be brought up before the board and have a specific vote on it at that time. But yes, I'm agreeable to training.
Commissioner Pratt?
Yeah, I'm a little hesitant to make a blanket policy to not record training meetings. Not that I would object to it on a case by case basis, but I think if we kind of leave it on an ad hoc basis, it gives us the opportunity to have conversation and debate around why that specific meeting shouldn't be recorded, rather than giving the option of just kind of having anything that we determine to be training to be lumped into that. That's just kind of my first blush thought and reflection on that, so.
Commissioner Byers?
Yeah, I feel similar to Commissioner Pratt on this. I think it doesn't take a whole lot to go through each, like if we have a training coming up, we can have a quick conversation and not record it should we need to. And I think that it does spark that conversation of whether or not it's important to have that be something that's recorded or not. And I feel like some meetings and trainings could cross that line, and so I think it would be good to, on a case by case basis, to look at it. So maybe keeping it would be my personal preference.
Commissioner Edmund?
I think I'm fine with us discussing them on a case by case basis. I think there might still be some sort of a language amendment that would facilitate that more gracefully than having to like amend or, diverge from our stated policy every time we have something that comes up. I think if we say that, in general, all meetings will be recorded with the exception of certain types of meetings that are just specific working sessions or training sessions where no decision making is going to take place. And the decision of whether to record that particular meeting or not can be discussed in advance. Something along those lines. I think it would make it kind of more, as opposed to like they're all recorded and then we have to go, oh wait, we got to amend the policy every time we come to that situation. I think it would just procedurally, it would just facilitate that discussion. So I think a kind of
A paragraph in there.
yeah, something that just facilitates that the default is we're going to record, but there's certain types of meetings that we may not, and that we'll consider those in advance.
Case by case. And
I'm in agreement with that, if we can structure that. Does that make sense, Mr. Paxton? Is that something that Is it within the, within the law?
Yeah, you have a lot of flexibility on what gets recorded. And the trainings, in my experience, can have different degrees of discussions about district business, right? I mean, those are what our public meetings is, discussions about the district's business. Some trainings will be about the district, some of them be more generic, maybe a mixture of that. So I can see where the board's coming to this, ultimately a policy decision for you guys to make.
Anyone else have any more comments?
I go along with Eric on that, so I think that, if we can get that language put in and we can put it in, vote on it next meeting.
Yeah, Amy, if you want to email me the policy, I can wordsmith it and send you a draft.
It sounds good.
Okay, that would be great. And Commissioner Adman, will you just send something to Mr. Paxton as well, so he can kind of give us his stamp of approval on it, the wording?
Sure.
Thank you. We do not have any board resolutions. Now we're on to the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes unanimously. The fire chief's report. Did everyone get a copy of that in their email?
I did.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions for Chief Cowan?
There was one thing just with NEMCO, if there was any development with
yeah.
that there was a little bullet point on there about that.
Yeah, I can provide a little bit more details, but they're really, we don't have a decision at this point. I'll try and summarize and just say that Kenmore has some concerns about representation from NEMCO on their emergency management, training and support and things like that. And so as a group, we want to try and find a path forward that a successful path forward that keeps NEMCO and everybody happy. But Kenmore is not, seeing the value of what they're spending and feel that they can utilize those dollars in a different way and potentially to get more value. I feel like we had a good conversation and meeting to discuss what their needs are and all that, but they also don't know what their path forward is without NEMCO. So what we have right now is that Kenmore is in the process over the next 6 months-ish to evaluate those options, develop a plan, see what those costs are, to decide, where's the value of what they're spending in NEMCO versus what they can do, with hiring their own person or contracting out or whatever they're going to do. And the plan, there isn't a rock solid date on this, but to come back and say spring time-ish and come back to the group and say what the plan is. In the meantime, we have tasked Kevin Lowry, who's our emergency management manager with NEMCO, to make sure that he's doing whatever he can to address the needs of Kenmore. We believe that this might be more of a perception and communications issue than really an actual delivery issue, if that makes sense. So we're hoping that we can address some of these issues over the span of these next 6 months-ish time to either show Kenmore what the value is and have them believe that there is a successful path forward with NEMCO. And if not, then at least by spring, we'll know if Kenmore is out by the end of 2025, which they did give notice. They felt that they needed to give notice to, per the ILA, to give, because it's a calendar year. I believe that I speak for Lake Forest Park as well, in that I think we're trying to be accommodating and want to, they don't necessarily have to give all that notice, but they did. Because really the biggest impact is what happens to Kevin. And if he's not, if we're not successful with keeping Nemco, then he is gonna, need to look for employment elsewhere. So that's the short version. There's a little bit more than that, but that's really the gist of it.
Chief, do you have a sense of what's driving this move? Like what's motivating Kenmore? I mean, you kind of sort of alluded to like some communication issues, but has this been developing for a couple of years? Is this out of the blue? What's happening here?
It's a great question that I'm not really aware of too much, because this is more between Kenmore and Nemco or Kevin, and doesn't really include me necessarily. I've become aware of it as a governing board member as to their concerns, and I don't want to point fingers or anything like that, but there might be a communication breakdown between Kevin and the point of contact with Kenmore. I don't know the person's name, and then between that person and Rob Carlindsey, the city manager, there might be a communication gap here. And again, that's what I mean by it might not be a delivery issue as much as a communication issue. And if it is a communication issue, then those are much more easily overcome. If it is a performance or delivery issue, that's also on Kevin to make sure that he's, if there are gaps, that he's addressing those, because they are paying their share and they deserve to get the value out of it. So that's what we're trying to address, whether both sides, communication and or performance delivery.
Do you have a sense of where this would leave Lake Forest Park if Kenmore were to withdraw?
It leaves them in a real bind. Again, I'm not going to speak for Lake Forest Park. That would be, way out of my realm. But they face city issues just like every other city, and that they need to address emergency management issues. And one of the great things about Nemco is that by pooling the resources, you can get a pretty good value and product that you couldn't get necessarily on your own, especially as a smaller city. Kenmore is bigger than Lake Forest Park, but both cities are facing a situation of, would they go and hire somebody? Well, is there enough work for an FTE to do that work, or do you contract with an outside agency, and how much are they going to charge versus what the value is with Nemco? And so again, I know that that Lake Forest Park is going to have to take do some hard evaluations on their own. Perhaps they partner directly with Kenmore and outside of Nemco and an ILA. But why not stay in Nemco if they're going to do that? That's a great question. I don't know. But as more information becomes available, I can certainly share it. But this is, if it continues, I would, and Kenmore actually does leave Nemco, kind of to your question, that would be the end of Nemco. There would not be a point of having Lake Forest Park and the North Shore Fire Department, as just two partners in the emergency management, when this is, emergency management is a city function, not necessarily a fire department function. So there are some pretty dire consequences if this continues on this path for Nemco. Does that fully address?
Yeah, I think so. I'm just
Okay.
like thinking ahead. Is there bandwidth within Shoreline's emergency management to absorb
Lake Forest Park?
Lake Forest Park?
That's a great question. In fact, the next time I have a conversation with Lake Forest Park, I'll mention that as an option. I would hope that even if Nemco goes away, that there's something that Kenmore and Lake Forest Park could do, since they've been partners already for decades. So I would hope that there's a solution there. But again, I think that there's a pretty good value coming out of Nemco and the money that's being spent. I don't know if you could get that same level of going out on your own or contracting or whatever. So I'm cautiously optimistic that at the end of the day, when hopefully we address, like I said, the communications and delivery things, but also when Kenmore actually does an evaluation of what they're going to have to spend to get a similar or even commensurate level, that it will still make sense for them to be in Nemco.
Thank you.
So moving on, I think we've gotten all the different commissioner reports unless there's something that I missed.
No, I just wanted to take a second, follow up with Chief Cowan. At the last planning meeting, I had asked for him to move ahead with requesting feedback from community and kind of starting to advertise the open house that we're planning on, and just to see if there's been any progress there.
I've developed some talking points to address, what I believe is some positives and some benefits of doing the RFA, and the plan there is to post to the website and to start marketing out. I reached out to the Lake Forest Parking, and Kenmore to be able to address their councils, and that's a work in progress as well. I haven't done much more than that, but I would expect some more. I have a meeting tomorrow, actually, to address some of this as well, as how do we market this. So I would expect something later this week or early next week, trying to do some better community outreach.
Is there anything forward facing on the website advertising our open house at the end of the month?
No, that's one of the things that we're going to update tomorrow.
Copy.
Okay, so moving on, legal counsel report. Mr. Paxton, did you have anything for us?
Not today.
Thank you. Okay, setting a future meeting agenda. Amy, I believe we can just move forward our 4 board discussion possible action items.
Take 54. I would recommend we can take 54 off, at least for now. It's been demoed.
Okay. Is everyone okay with taking station 54 off?
I believe so. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so other than that, we've got the report from the RFA Planning Committee, discussion on updating the financial policy 6200, and then discussion on updating policy 1450.
I would like to add for next meeting an update on capital projects too. And that can be part of either my chief's report or a separate agenda item if you'd like. I can embed that within my report if you'd like.
Yeah,
Chief,
let's,
I think it'd be good to have that as a discussion topic.
Okay,
okay. we can
I'll
do
invite
that.
Chief Hochstein as well.
That would be great. Amy, can you add that?
Yes, and I have some other questions.
Perfect. If you can go ahead with your questions.
So it's gonna be a very busy month, and I just wanna go through all the meetings that are happening and ask the question of when. If in the public hearing for the budget, is that also part of the November 5th? That's my question. So I'll go through these other meetings first. So there's a RFA Planning Committee meeting on Monday, October 21st at 5 p.m. at Shoreline Station 61. And then on October 28th, that's Monday at 6 p.m. is the open house info session for the RFA. And that is at station 51 here. Then the very next day, on Tuesday, October 29th at 5 p.m. is a special joint meeting of the North Shore and Shoreline Fire Department boards to discuss the 2025 budget. And then it's our next regular meeting, Tuesday, November 5th, here at 5 p.m. There is a special meeting on Tuesday, November 19th at 5 p.m. here at Station 51, and that is to adopt the 2025 budget. So before the adoption of the budget, we need to do a public hearing. Usually we do the public hearing before a regular meeting. So my question is the public hearing on November 5th?
Will we do that 4 p.m. like we did last time?
Well, I'll have to look back. I think we just do it at 5 p.m. and then, well, actually, no, I'm not sure. Let me just look at a previous year.
It feels too tight between 29th, seeing the budget for the first time, and November 5th for the open public meeting.
I'll just say that last year in 2023, the public hearing was on Tuesday, November 7th. And the meeting started at 5 p.m. The regular meeting was opened, and then there was public comment, approval of the agenda, and then the public hearing. And then it went into board discussion and possible action items, and then the rest of our agenda.
You used to have two dates for public hearings.
And, oh yeah, so now I see that the very next week, so it didn't finish on last year, 2023. The first part of the public hearing was November 7th. And then there was a special meeting the next week, November 14th of 2023, that was a continuation of the public hearing.
And when was the approval of the budget last year? First week in December.
It was the next week, so it was November 21st. So there were 3 meetings in a
Yeah.
row, all 1 week apart, November 7th, November 14th, and November 21st. So right now, we have November 5th as a regular meeting, and then we could have another special meeting on November 12th to do the continuation of the public hearing. And then we already have on the calendar November 19th to approve or to adopt the 2025 budget.
Okay, so I'm just gonna restate this. So November 5th, we have our normal meeting. Then we have a special meeting on the 19th to discuss the budget, and then
No. Right now, we have November 5th as a regular meeting, and we have a special meeting scheduled for November 19th to adopt the budget. But in order to adopt the budget, we first have to have a public meeting prior to the 19th. So in previous years, we did the public meeting as part of the regular November meeting.
Public hearing.
Public hearing, yes, yeah.
okay,
We
okay,
did
so
the
that would,
public hearing, yes, as part of the regular meeting in November.
So that'd be on November.
Okay.
4th.
so that would be on the 5th. Okay. So did that answer all of your questions, Amy?
Well, I think so. I just want to make sure you're all on board with that schedule. So you'll have a joint meeting on October 29th with the Shoreline Board
Yep,
for an overview of the budget. And then the following Tuesday, the 5th, will be the regular meeting and the public hearing for the budget. And I suppose if it doesn't finish, then you can opt to then maybe have another special meeting on the 12th, but right now we just have the 5th as the regular meeting plus the public hearing. And then the adoption of the budget is scheduled for November 19th.
perfect. Okay. Okay, so are there any other questions, commissioners?
Did that answer your question?
And I'll have to review on my calendar when we get it.
Now, I'll put everything's
Tight
in.
timeline.
Yeah, put in an email out at all.
I think 2 years ago, we didn't need day 2 of the public hearing because no one showed up to day 1. And then the following year, last year, we did because there was
lingering questions.
lingering questions, the budget was increasing because of all the capital projects. Yeah,
The board wanted more time to consider it, so they extended the public hearing, but typically you wouldn't need to do that.
so the time, do we have room between day 1 for do we have room between the day that we have scheduled for the public hearing and the date we have set to approve the budget for a second day if we need it?
Yes.
That would be the 12th
Okay,
if we need it.
all right.
Okay, if there's nothing further, I'm gonna go ahead and adjourn the meeting. All right, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.